We have a serious game changer on our hands today. I mean, I knew the season was going to top the first one, but holy hell, I wasn't ready for that ending point. But I'm only getting ahead of myself. This past weekend, Skylanders Academy just aired its second season on Netflix. Ranging from 13 episodes this time around, we could tell they really took a step up from the first season where it was just getting its starting ground. The animation has been bumped up, we got new characters, sets, and locations. And the stories they told this time around, where do I even begin? We might get into some spoiler territory, but I'm gonna be as careful as possible trying to boil everything down that occurred. So steer yourselves if you haven't seen what happens yet. Now before I get into anything else, I think I need to address the main story arc of this season. This is where shit really starts to hit the fan. So this time around, Spyro begins growing more and more curious about his dragon kind, wanting to learn all about what happened to his family and where he came from. This becomes a recurring theme from episode to episode, and the further and deeper he digs, Spyro's unable to find any sort of trace or clue that would give him the answers he's looking for, and he highly suspects Master Eon may be hiding something from him all the while. You may want to remember this, as it's going to be very important by the season's end when Spyro finally learns the truth. Now of course, Chaos is left with the Doom Raiders during this time. Simultaneously, he's missing his old life with Glumshanks and Cassandra, Chaos' mother if you recall. He eventually grows tired of this little band of villains and wishes to abandon them and set things right with his mother and lackey, or at least that's what it seems to be like. For anyone who may have watched the first season, there was a dark figure Cassandra has been keeping secret in her meditation chamber. We got to learn more about this dark matter throughout the season, as it leads to a rather shocking turn of events involving Chaos' father. I did not say that wrong. We actually get to learn who Chaos' dad is. To put it this way, it'll shatter everything you know, or at least what you think you know. And to anyone still in the dark, about the possibility of Dark Spyro being a thing, let's just say those concerns will be put to rest. By the end of the season, I couldn't possibly believe what I was getting into. And I was left with so many questions after the inevitable cliffhanger it ended on. At the end of the day though, it was more than enough to convince me that the writing for this season definitely blew the first one right out of the water. And I think this was an incredible step for the series, and for that I've gotta applaud their efforts. Pleasantly surprised is something I frequently say a lot, I realize this, but in this case, that really goes without saying. I said earlier that everything has been bumped up from the animation to the writing and the stories of every episode. I was not exaggerating. The characters are much better this time around. The humor, wit, and charm are just as powerful as the first season, perhaps even more so, and its sense of morality is still very solid. In a word, I'd say some of the cast felt more fleshed out. For example, Spyro was becoming less and less egotistical by the episode, and while he's still snarky and whatnot, it's not in the way so much this time. Other Skylanders like Stealth Elf, Eruptor, and the like were given some more time to shine depending on the episode, and you know, it's all good stuff. And hell, I can definitely confirm that Chaos gets significantly better the more this season goes on. Last season I said his obsession with the Golden Queen was getting a bit much after a while. That's no longer the case here, and I feel they found a way to balance things out before he decides to turn on the Doom Raiders, including Goldie. We also got to see how Cassandra and Glumshanks are coping with Chaos' disappearance up until he returns somewhere down the road. All you need to know is that the development here is still as strong as ever. Cassandra is still an incredible performance, and even Glummy delivered a couple more laughs this time. And the connection to the games are still rather solid. We got to see the Hydra this time around, which really blew me away. Something we haven't seen since Spyro's Adventure, and it's brought back in full force. That's pretty sweet to me. Even more sweet is the addition of new characters. They weren't as plentiful as I was anticipating, but I feel they were rather serviceable. First up we got Cinder. To be quite honest, I very well enjoyed her performance in this show. While there's no romantic connection to Spyro like many were expecting, sorry about that in advance, we got to see how greatly they bonded as close friends, and their relationship here was spot on. And Cinder's character here really felt genuine, someone who is torn between good and evil and wishes to aid the Skylanders through their many quests. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that in this show, her father is apparently the almighty Malefor. Yep, direct from The Legend of Spyro and from the Skylanders comics, we got Malefor making the scene. And my god, he was just incredible. A solid antagonist, a well done connection with him and Cinder, and a very good performance by the legendary Jim Cummings. Yes, I recognized that voice after a couple lines in his debut about 3 episodes in. Now this, I feel, was greatly needed. And this is telling we got a couple more villains in store. We may not have gotten the Gulper or Dr. Crancase as I was hoping, but I feel what we got was good enough. We also got to see Fisticuffs and Bombshell here and there, which is nice for what it's worth. On top of new characters, this one was really out of left field for me. Also joining the cast is Sprocket, the first of the tech girls included since Giants. Now I think this needs to be said. I've always enjoyed Sprocket in the games, yet I've never thought she'd be one of those characters they do so much with. Or at the very least, I first thought they didn't see much potential with her at first glance. Then again, if Imagineers taught me anything, if you give the girl her own minigame, that's a pretty good sign of things to come. Lo and behold, she's in the main roster now, and I seriously cannot stress how much justice they did this girl. A couple appearances here and there, and she is just awesome. I am very happy she came out the way she did. The brainy type, a real tech whiz, and yet so full of pep and life. It's this kind of flesh and personality that really makes me appreciate them all the more. I've gotta applaud this all the way. Mind the Skylanders and cadets were also given some time to shine as well. Whether it's giving more dialogue and putting them in more situations to partake in, I feel like everyone got their fair share this time. In this case, seeing more food fight, kaboom, wind up, and especially roll a brawl and chill definitely left a huge smile on my face. In advance, I know there's a third season in the works, so I'm really hoping they keep this up. I'm also going to put a pin on this topic as I'm going to be coming back to it later. So in between this amazing story arc, we still got some fun and clever stories to check out, like how Eruptor has his insane ability to notice and suspect the smallest of things like a super detective. Pop Fizz gets tried in a court-like fashion after having been framed for a crime he didn't commit. There's a supposed holiday special under the title of Thanks-Taking as opposed to Thanksgiving. Spyro and Stealth Elf get locked in the relic room, all the while coping with each other's company. Dreamcatcher gets amnesia. I wish I were kidding when I say that. Stealth Elf seeks training from the magic giant Ninjini to fight off a bad-mouthing bully. Yep, we have a full episode dedicated to Ninjini, and it's a very fun watch. All in all, we got a couple more great ideas in store. The only real negative I have is that I wish we've got more settings to deal with. Yeah, I know they're on a bit of a fixed budget, you know, this being a Netflix show and all. But I thought Skylands was supposed to be an open world full of vast lands to explore. To put it in lighter terms, expect to see more of the Falling Forest this season. Now, last time, the only real dud episode was Beard Science, where Chaos steals Eon's beard and everyone instantly loves him. Meanwhile, Eon is hardly even recognized by any of the Skylanders. Are there any more this time around? Well, while these aren't terrible or just plain bad, the only weak or meh episodes have to be One Flew Over the Skylander's Nest, where Eon and the main cast end up getting sick. They do reference in episode how Eon fell ill before, and while that was funny in hindsight, sick day episodes tend to be hit or miss with me, and this one just didn't interest me enough. The only other one would have to be, well, Who's Your Daddy? Where Jetvac has to look after a baby Greeble that hatches from his collection of eggs. I didn't say anything wrong or misinterpret anything. Apparently he collects his own eggs to remind himself how cowardly he is, making him feel like he's not as good of a leader to the others. And of course, this one goes for the plot where the innocent turns out to be evil, and the parental figure is blind to it at first, but then realizes it as time goes on. To be blunt, this wasn't bad or anything. In fact, I get the message they were going for, but this one was just too weird for my liking. And given this is Skylanders, a world filled with strange and bizarre creatures by the dozen, that's saying something. Rest assured, there's layers upon layers of good stuff for us all to come home with, so worry not. If Season 1 didn't convince you, you'll probably find some favorites in this one, no doubt about it. My personal top 3 would be, in this exact order, It Takes Two, where Jetvac learns to cooperate and work with Sprocket and all her fancy technology. Belly of the Beast, when all the Skylanders and the cadets travel to rescue Kingpin from the Fire Viper. Special props to this one for making me really appreciate Bad Breath and the Imagineer Psy all the more than I would have before. Also, for full disclosure, I thought Psy was alright in this first appearance, which is still one of my favorite episodes of Season 1. And then there's Split Decision, which brings me back to a previous topic. I realize this may be coming from my personal attachment and favoritism toward these characters, but if you can take something like my love for the undead Skylander Hex and just single-handedly amass it under one whole episode, then you are definitely doing something right. I asked for an episode in favor of Hex, and I sure as hell got one. And by the end, it's really something worth admiring, and it's undeniably one of my all-time favorites. Her familiar Skull fears Hex might not be needing him anymore, so he parts with her, which in turn causes Hex to be more evil. Its lesson of the day, on top of how spot on the connection between these two are, it's just something that really hits right at home with me. And I'm more than pleased with how they handled not only Hex herself, as the good and kind-hearted soul she is, but with the overall presentation, as the visuals can really get you jumping depending on who you are. All in all, it's just the right episode for her, and I'll always be coming back to this one anytime I'm rewatching Season 2. And yes, I still freaking love Hex. Thank you, Skylanders Academy. Now in closing, this is probably, in my opinion, the best they've ever done with this show so far. It's suspenseful when it needs to be, charming and heartwarming at times, fun and exciting, and at the end of the day, a real thrill ride if you're just going into this for the first time. I've never doubted this season could top the first one in a matter of time, and I've come out of this well satisfied and stoked for what's to come next. Just be prepared for the finale once you get there. Lots of luck to you all. I've fully enjoyed this season overall, and I'm pretty sure you'll get some fun out of it just as well. So now, all's left to do is just sit here and wait for the third season. Another full year away. I swear this is gonna eat away at me.